you want to hire a PR agency, then you need to be prepared to spend thousands of dollars a month. And you also need to be of the mindset that this does not mean sales. If you are in a position where you are like in need of sales to survive, then you shouldn't hire a PR agency. You should put your money and your time behind sales efforts. PR is marketing. We get you known. We get you on the radar of your ideal customer or client. We don't make the sales for you. So you want to be comfortable enough to where you spend thousands of dollars a month to hire an agency. Now, a lot of agencies are bad. And I say that just being on the receiving end of a lot of their pitches. So you definitely want to hire wisely.
Hey, in this episode, I had a chance to talk to Christina Nicholson. She is a mother of 3, TV host, and business owner who lives in Wellington, Florida. Christina started her PR agency, Media Maven, after working as a TV anchor and reporter for more than 10 years. Since then, she has created an online course and group program for solopreneurs and small business owners who want to earn coverage in the media but don't have a budget to hire an agency. Christina is also the host of the Become a Media Maven podcast and the founder of Podcast Clout, a podcast database that makes it easier for PR professionals to build podcast pitch list. And in today's episode, we talk about the most effective way to get free PR for your business. So tune in. I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from this episode. Hey, Christina, welcome to the Master Delegator Podcast. I'm so happy to see you again. I know we just talked to one another a couple of days ago. It was on Tuesday. So we're recording this. This is Thursday. It is Thursday today. And Christina interviewed me on her podcast. So now the table has turned. I'm now interviewing her. But don't be scared because you did such an awesome job when you interviewed me, so I'm not gonna like ask you any difficult question or anything. But yeah, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And you can ask me anything, Kristy. I am an open book and super excited to chat with you again.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I'm really gonna ask you a lot of questions today. And so let's start. Let's dive right in. So how did you go from a professional freelancer to a $1 million agency owner?
Yeah, well, I call myself a professional freelancer when I left TV. So I worked in TV full time for about 10 years, and I needed something with a more flexible schedule. Like a lot of people do when they leave their jobs, they just want a flexible schedule. And so I went from working in TV to working in PR. I worked at an agency for 6 months, and then I went off on my own, and I was freelancing for other PR agencies. When they needed some extra help, they would hire me, and I would just get paid for the help that I would offer that particular PR agency. And then I started getting on those websites like LinkedIn and Upwork and different places to find work from clients. And then I would also work with clients in addition to PR agencies. And after a couple of years, I got a little burnt out on it. I was working 24/7 and I was doing all of the things. I was doing sales, marketing, servicing. I was wearing all of the hats. So I started working with a business coach, and it was around that time when I hired somebody to help me. And that kind of snowballed into me building a team and building my business over time.
That is awesome. So I think that's also one of the main reason why I started my own business, because I want to have flexibility. And so I don't really blame you why you got out of TV, and started your own. So you were like, what do you call yourself? A journalist or like a TV anchor?
I was a journalist. I was a TV reporter and anchor. And it's funny, we just had a hurricane hit us down here in South Florida. And I said, this is so amazing that I can like just sit inside and do whatever. And I don't have to stand out in the hurricane for 12 hours telling people it's raining and windy. So like, that's what I did. I was that person on TV reporting the news and in different markets. And it's fun for a little bit, but after a while, it's a lot. And it's just something that I didn't want to do anymore, having young kids. So that's kind of why I shifted from being a journalist to PR, because as a journalist, we are pitched a lot by people in PR who want to earn exposure in the news. So we kind of know what works and what doesn't work because we're on the receiving end of all of those pitches. So it was a really natural career change for me. And just 6 months after working at an agency, I said, I still don't have the flexibility that I want. I'm still dealing with a terrible boss. I'm still not making the decisions or working with the people that I want to work with. So that's when I started freelancing for other agencies and then slowly getting my clients and then building a team.
That is awesome. Because whenever I see like a reporter on TV, I was just like, this is really awesome. Like, I wish I can be on TV too, like so that people can watch me and see me live or whatever, reporting something. But, you were doing that for 15 years. And I'm sure it took a toll on you, at the beginning. I'm pretty sure, when you got out of college, you were like pretty excited, starting out this job that did you go to college for that?
I did. Yeah. I went to Ohio State for journalism. And I started slow and worked my way up. My first job was at News 12 The Bronx, and I did everything there. I carried around a heavy camera and tripod, did my own shooting, did my own editing. I would put something down in front of the camera and record myself, come back and watch it, make sure I was centered, and then come back and shoot myself with the camera, drive back to the station in New York City traffic, write the story, edit the story, and all of that. And then from there, I went to Beaumont, Texas, to Fort Myers, to the Miami, Fort Lauderdale market, which is where I ended up leaving and getting out of the business entirely.
Yeah. Well, so you are now a $1 million agency owner. If you hadn't left, your career in TV, would you be able to have this much amount of, growth, when it comes to finances?
Oh, absolutely not. I feel like when you have a job, the amount of money you make is determined by your boss. And if your boss only wants to pay you so much money, like that's all you're going to get. It doesn't even matter what the work is that you do. So, I mean, I remember going into work and it was like, okay, like as soon as you get a new job, this is the amount of money you're going to make. And then every year or two, you'll get your raise and it'll slowly increase, but you're not going to make, I mean, honest to God, like right now, like 9 times out of 10, you're not going to make a living wage. And I'm a big proponent of everybody having a side hustle. I know we saw when COVID first hit, all of the layoffs, we're seeing it again now. Tons of people are getting laid off and they think that having a job gives them security, but like your boss doesn't care about you. Like they have a job and their job is to make as much money as possible. And if you're not there to help them do it, they don't care about you or your family. Like you're going to be kicked out of there. So the only person you can rely on is yourself. So I really do feel like being an entrepreneur and having your own business is more secure than having a job. Like it's just something that I feel like is a mindset shift for a lot of people. But I feel like statistically, if you are willing to do the work that it takes to make the investment that you have to make, and to stick with it. That's another thing. A lot of people don't want to start their own business because they don't know what's going to happen in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They think, oh, but if I get this job, I know what'll happen in the next few years. You don't know. On both sides, you don't know, but you are in control of your own side.
Exactly. I love that. And you can never really have more time and freedom when you're employed, by a company. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are people out there who are better off, being employed, because they just don't have the entrepreneurial in them. But for people like us, we just can't, say yes to someone all the time. We can just follow somebody because we're just born leaders, and it's hard for us to be content when we're, just following instructions from other people because we want to be the one, taking the lead. And so tell me about for most businesses, they think that they only need to hire a PR agency once I have $1 million business. Because sometimes, most of the time, they think that, when I have a PR agency, it's expensive, like, and you're gonna put a hole in your wallet. But I don't think that is true, to be honest, because I have spoken to different PR agencies, and yes, it can be quite pricey as if you compare it to you doing it, because if you're doing it, then you don't really have to pay somebody, right? But if you're gonna hire somebody, a PR agency, to do PR for you, then you are really gonna invest, because it's an investment. Because you're gonna have whenever I hire somebody, regardless if it's an individual or an agency, I know that I am investing because I am going to expect return on my income, return on my investment, right? So that's why I think it's very important that we hire the right firm, the right people, the right individuals to help us. So can you please educate us, what is a PR agency and what can they do for businesses? Let's just say I'm the one who needs a PR agency and I own a virtual assistant agency. How can you help me, have more credibility?
That's a great question. So first, yes, if you want to hire a PR agency, then you need to be prepared to spend thousands of dollars a month. And you also need to be of the mindset that this does not mean sales. If you are in a position where you are like in need of sales to survive, then you shouldn't hire a PR agency. You should put your money and your time behind sales efforts. PR is marketing. We get you known. We get you on the radar of your ideal customer or client. We don't make the sales for you. So you want to be comfortable enough to where you spend thousands of dollars a month to hire an agency. Now, a lot of agencies are bad. And I say that just being on the receiving end of a lot of their pitches. So you definitely want to hire wisely. But there are so many small business owners who need this to grow, because people can't do business with you if they don't know about you. And by earning exposure in the media, by being a guest on a podcast, by being a regular contributor to a website that your ideal customer or client is reading, by getting that roundup of your product in a certain magazine or on a certain morning show, that is what's going to build your business. And you can do this without hiring a PR agency. It's why I created my media mentoring program. So many people were reaching out to me and they were saying, hey, we want this, but we don't have a budget to hire an agency. So you're either going to spend time getting it done or you're going to spend money getting it done. But it does so much for you. There are 3 ways to get attention. One is to post on your website and your social media. That's you sharing your knowledge, sharing your expertise, telling people how you can help them. And you should do that. The other way is through advertising. You can put a bunch of money behind Facebook ads and Instagram ads. I have not a love-hate relationship, but a hate-hate relationship with social media ads. I've never seen an ROI from it, but they make it so easy that I keep getting sucked into the ads. But you have a lot of competition there and you're spending money. And when you stop spending money on the ads, that goes away. With earned media, which is what a PR agency can do for you, or what you can learn from somebody like me, is how to get that coverage where you would want to advertise, but you're not spending the money and it's going to stay there forever. Like this podcast right now, I'm not paying to be doing this podcast interview, but I am here. Your listeners know, like, and trust you. So by default, they're going to know, like, and trust me. And this podcast is going to live forever on the podcast app. If I was spending an ad, I'm not going to have that authority and credibility because people are going to know I'm paying to be there. And when I stop paying to be there, it's going to completely go away. So it's just like a referral from a friend. It's like a third-party endorsement. And that's why it's so important for people to be getting coverage in other places outside of their own platforms without spending money on it.
I love that. Wow. I love what you said about PR is marketing. It's not sales. You can't expect to get on a podcast today and expect a lead tomorrow, because just
sometimes
like you said,
it can't happen like that.
Yeah. Sometimes it can happen.
I mean, sometimes it can happen. And then sometimes it doesn't happen. It just depends where your audience is. Like I've had 2 different clients on the Today Show. For one of them, it worked out amazingly, like literally the minute after their story aired. For the other one, not so much, because it wasn't their audience.
That's
so
true.
It really just depends.
Yeah, that's true. And even sometimes, the podcast host can be your target audience, right? Like you can do collaborations together. But like you said, it's earned media and it's evergreen content. So if your podcast episode gets published today, it's not going to be I mean, possible that the host can delete it, but most of the time, podcast hosts, they don't delete their episode because they value the value that the podcast guests brought onto the table. And so tell me about based on your experience, you've been doing this for quite a while now. Based on your experience, what is the most effective PR strategy? Is it podcast guesting? Is it getting on media outlets, blogging?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it really depends on where your audience is. So, for example, if you are a nonfiction author, if you are a speaker, if you have a service-based business, you're totally going to rely on your expertise and your experience and your education, all of that stuff to help people. So if that is you, I suggest you get on podcasts. You should not only have your own podcast, but you should also be a guest on other podcasts. If you're B2B, like if you work with other business owners and you help small business owners, then ask yourself, what podcasts are small business owners listening to? Those are the podcasts I want to be on. Because yes, you could get coverage on the Today Show talking about, building a business in a recession. Like that could be a talking point. And I'm sure some business owners are watching and are listening and may come find you afterwards, but not all of them are. But when somebody listens to a podcast, they're reading that title, they want to know more, and they're getting to hear you for about 30 minutes, give or take, talking about that subject. It's very different from a 3-minute segment on TV where it's a national audience and it's very broad. So right. I would suggest podcasts for that. Now, if you have a product, if you're somebody like, say, you make water bottles, then getting on TV or getting in those magazines or those websites where they do, like the best 10 products for your workout buddy, or the best 12 things that'll help you be healthier in the new year, then that's going to be more beneficial for you than being on a podcast, for example. So where you want to be, it really just depends on where your audience is. So that's like really step one in this whole thing, because people get distracted with the big names of Forbes and the Today Show and Fox and CNN. Don't get distracted by that. Like I've had so many clients who have moved the needle so much further by being in smaller, more niched outlets. Yes, the big ones can help you too. That gives you tons of credibility and authority. You could use those as ads and target people in your niche. But those smaller ones where you can get directly to the person you want to get in front of, that can lead to so much more ROI than maybe a channel that's more impressive to pull their logo or something.
Yeah, that's true. And, I know we talked about this earlier. There are other PR agencies out there who provide services or who offer as featured in or as seen on, kind of thing on that you can put on the website. And then they will provide you the logos to big media outlets like CNN, Fox, Yahoo, whatever outlets are available out there. But the reality is, I know because I've done this, I tried to do this and I felt guilty about this because it turned out, and I didn't know anything about this before I bought their services. I thought that I'm going to be featured on CNN, like the actual CNN, the US CNN, I don't know what you call that, or Fox, but the reality is I wasn't featured on those big outlets. I was featured on their like small outlets. I don't know what exactly you call it. It's like Fox 55, like their branches.
They're like the affiliate. They're
like the affiliate
stations. Yeah. And
so what do you think about that?
Well, a couple of things. For me, when I see people saying as featured on ABC, NBC, CNN, whatever, I take it with a grain of salt. Like it doesn't mean anything to me, just because one, anybody could be featured there. If you hire a press release distribution service, you write some bullshit press release and then you pay them to send it to 500 places, they'll copy it and paste it and put it on their website. Nobody will ever see it. Like it's impossible to find, but you can say I was featured here, here, and here. So something that I challenge people to do, if you are going to put that on your website, hyperlink that logo and link to the coverage, because I want to see it. If you've been in all of these places, I want to see that it's not the same stupid press release that's been copied and pasted in all of these places. I want to see an actual feature. I want to see like actual coverage and a real story in these places. So when people just put the logos up on their website, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
And then you also have the people who kind of sugarcoat it, and they'll say, I was on Fox News, but you were really on a local Fox affiliate in Beaumont, Texas. Very, very different. So if that's the case, put you were on KBMT. Don't say you were on Fox News, because that's just disingenuous.
That is so true.
I feel like a lot of people are just trying to look cool on the internet instead of actually doing things that are realistic and will actually move the needle for them. It's all about just looking a certain way, and that's not going to move the needle for you, especially in this case when you're just throwing logos up on your website.
That's true. And to me, you know, when I found out that I'm not really going to feature on those like specific big media outlets, I was like, oh, what do I do now? Like I can't put their logo on my website, because I'm gonna feel like I'm cheating or something. I'm not, you know, I'm a very real person and authentic, and I want to stay true to myself. And so, you know what I did? Even if you go to my website right now, I put the exact name of the news channel.
I saw that, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I have Fox 43, News Channel Nebraska, 95.3, you know, FM, whatever, you know. And I was like, and that's okay, you know, because I don't know, that is important.
To me, that's more impressive than the generic national logos, because when I see people do that, I know they weren't really there because they deserve to be there. 9 times out of 10, that's not what it is. So when I saw that on your website, I was like, yes, she's being honest about the coverage that she's earning. And it's amazing coverage that you've earned. Like most people who do what you do haven't done that. So you should be proud of those logos on your site. And because you actually earn them, and it's actually like real life. It's not like, hey, even though I was on this local station here, I'm going to pretend it was national. Like, people are smarter than that now. Like, maybe we would have believed you 10, 15 years ago, but not today. It doesn't work like that today.
I just can't live my life every day knowing that I'm fooling people, you know, that I'm not staying true to myself. So I don't know if you have listeners out there who are doing, you know, putting logos of CNN, Fox, even though you're not really featured in those big media outlets, just, you know, stay true to yourself. Of course, you know, you are you know, we cannot control, you know, what you do, but I think what we just want to say here is, you know, authenticity is the most important thing than pretending that you've been on those big media outlet when it didn't really happen, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Are you sick and tired of being overwhelmed and afraid you'll never scale your business? Meet SmartVAs. Unlike many virtual assistant agencies that only assign one dedicated virtual assistant, we provide flexibility for growing businesses by assigning a team of experienced virtual assistants that can do different tasks to support your continuous growth. Visit smartvas.online to book a free discovery call and start growing your business.
All right, so you talked about podcast guesting earlier. So how can you turn a podcast interview into tens of thousands of dollars for your business? You know, because I'm doing podcasts and I'm guesting on other podcasts too. So I want to know, like, how can I, you know, convert that into like an actual money, you know?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you just want to make sure you're on the right podcast. Again, you could be on a podcast that gets 1 million listeners, but if these 1 million people don't care about what you're doing and it's not in alignment with why they're listening, then it's not going to turn into anything for you. So just make sure like you are on a podcast that has the audience that you are trying to attract. And then after that, be as open and honest as you can on the podcast. So many people want to hold things back and like, oh no, I'm just going to give them this, but I'm going to hold back the how. So then they have to pay me for the how. Like, that's garbage. Like, give everybody what they want when they want it. If they want to pay you and you work with you, they will. It's not a matter of them paying you, oh, you were holding this back and I'm going to pay you. Like, people don't like that. Don't play that game. So be very open and honest. And then When people want to work with you, they will come and find you. They will download your lead magnet that you share on the podcast. They'll come and subscribe to your podcast. They'll find your website. They'll find you on social media and send you a message. Like, if people like you, they will find you to work with you. I was on Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income years ago. I've been on his podcast a few times. And the first time I was on, my email list grew like crazy afterwards. A couple months later, I had somebody buy my media mentoring program because she heard me on the podcast. Fast forward a couple more years, and Pat opened up an accelerator mastermind, and lots of people applied. He accepted me because he knew me from being a guest on his podcast. Then I was a guest on his podcast again after that.
Wow.
After that episode, I got an agency client out of that. And then I met people in his mastermind that snowballed into introductions to other people. I spoke on stage with him at Podcast Movement. Like, there is so much snowballing of things that could happen after you are a guest on the podcast. But number one, you have to make sure the audience is right. And number two, when you do go to pitch to be a guest, be as specific as possible in your talking points. No more of this, I will teach you how to save more time by delegation. We all know that. Instead, tell me, I will teach you how to get an extra 10 hours a week back by you delegating this one thing. Like, I want to know what that one thing is. Like, give me something so specific that the person receiving that email is going to say, oh, I've never received a pitch like this. I want to know more. And that's what's going to get you booked. That's what's going to make people want to listen. And then you will grow your own fan base, your own followers, your own people on your email list that you can now market and sell to down the road.
I love that. So this is kind of out of topic, but kind of what we're talking about as well. So I reach out to you to be a guest on your podcast, right?
Yes.
So if you don't mind me asking, what made you reply to my email?
Two things. One, that you approached it as a podcast swap. Or somehow I knew you also had a podcast, so then I suggested a podcast swap. I think as podcasters, if you're trying to grow your podcast, being a guest on other people's podcasts is huge, because people don't subscribe and listen to one podcast. They listen to multiples. Yeah. So if somebody's pitching me to be a guest and they tell me they have a podcast and I'm like, ooh, you want to do a podcast swap? So like, you meet my audience, I meet your audience. So that was one of the big reasons. Yeah. The other big reason, because after we started chatting, you said you lived in Marion, Ohio, where I was born and raised. So I was like, I cannot deny Kristy Yoder because she lives in Marion, where I was born and raised. It was just so wild. But I think by that point, we already agreed to the podcast swap. But for me, it was 100% the podcast swap. And I think you had some pretty good talking points, and your talking points about delegation spoke to me, because I told you on my podcast when you came on, I just recently hired my first VA. It took me 8 years to hire my first virtual assistant. I did have, a team of 8 before even hiring her. But I think because of what I was doing in my professional life, it also made sense.
So it was relatable to you. I love that. Well, thank you for letting me know, and thank you for reading my email. So let's get a little bit personal here. So you have 3 young kids.
I do.
And you work from home.
Yeah, I do.
How are you able to run a $1 million agency and be able to take care of your 3 young kids as well?
Well, before COVID hit, it was tougher than it is now. When COVID hit, I told my husband, you got to quit your job or I'm going to go crazy. Because my 2 older kids were in virtual school. My youngest was an infant, and my husband was working full time. Like, it was impossible for me to work. So I was like, listen, dude, I don't care if we have less money because you're quitting your job. I need my sanity. And he's always wanted to be a stay-at-home dad. And if COVID didn't happen, he would still be working. So it was like the push we needed. But before then, I am crazy about time management. Like, before then, my Google Calendar was color-coded. Everything was accounted for. Like, I was crazy about time management. And by that point, I was slowly building a team. The first couple of years I was in business, I was working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I was miserable. But when I started trusting people, which you talk about on Become a Media Maven, when you came on, when I started trusting people to do work that I would give to them, it freed up so much time for me to focus on the things that only I could do, like this podcast interview, or things that I wanted to do and things that I was actually good at. So building a team was super helpful to me getting some time back and doing more. And then I would say about 4 years ago now, a couple of years before my husband quit his job, I hired a director of operations for my agency, which would be like a mini me. I was like, listen, I'm tired of being the back and forth between the team and the client and making sure everything is happy and kumbaya. Like, can you just do that for me? Like the team is very self-sufficient and they're amazing. So it's not a ton of work for this person to like make sure everything is good. But she's amazing. She goes above and beyond. So I have like no worries at all that she's like really essentially running the business successfully. So that frees up my time just honestly like delegating to the team. I'm not just saying this because I'm here on the podcast, but really just delegating has saved me so much time that I'm able to A, do what I want, and B, explore other things and start other businesses and side hustles.
That is so true. And, you know, it's important to have your own team, but it's also as important or maybe more important to have your own right-hand person, you know, because same as you know, I also have my operations manager and she's the one sort of doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, you know, and now I can focus on strategic thinking while she is implementing all the strategies that I come up with, you know, so that is really good. So what is that one benefit that you've gotten since you've started delegating?
I would say, I mean, like besides my sanity, honestly, like I just love being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Like if it's a middle of a weekday, maybe it's like 2 p.m. and I want to go out to lunch, I can go out to lunch. Like I just love not being able to answer to anybody and doing what I want to do when I want to do it. I mean, honestly, like I hated when I worked a job, I had to ask permission to go on a vacation. I was limited on my sick days. And when you have kids and you don't have family nearby, like you only getting 5 sick days a year is not enough at all. So I just like hated being told what to do with my days as an adult. So being your own business owner and then having people to delegate work to, it's such a weight off of your shoulders. You can actually get your time back to do other things besides work all the time. And I feel like it's super important, especially in the American culture where everything's like hustle, 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 work, work, work. Everything's about money and greed. And like, listen, I feel like, yes, we need money to live. Like, dear God, in this country, if you want to be healthy, you have to have money.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like, it's crazy. My husband's Canadian, so that's like a whole other situation, like explaining to him how healthcare works here. But I mean, like, there's a line you got to draw. Like, how much do you really need to live or maintain your lifestyle or live the life you want? Chances are it's not millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Like you could probably be happy with just a little bit more that you're making right now. So for me, like I used to think success was like reaching a certain dollar amount, but really it's just like how you spend your days and how you live in the process of achieving your goal. Because once you get to your goal, you're going to be like, oh, let's set a new goal. Let's get bigger. You don't always have to get bigger. You can just maintain what's going on and enjoy your day-to-day life.
Exactly. And you know what? You know, just protecting your sanity alone, making sure that you're sane is a good enough reason to delegate.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen if your mental health is not where it should be, right? Your decision making is going to be affected. The way how you deal with people is going to be affected. So it's not worth it to try to do everything alone. So is there any one piece of advice that you want to give our listeners when it comes to PR?
Yeah, I would say I just want to leave with this because I didn't realize this was an issue for small business owners, but after I started my business, I realized a lot of small business owners thought, oh, I can't pitch the media. I can't be a guest on this podcast. I can't be quoted in this article. I'm not big enough. Yes, you are. Like, there's no reason why you need to be bigger or more successful or make more money or have a bigger team to talk about your expertise. In fact, people in the media and podcast hosts like to talk to people that they've never heard about or they've never heard from before, because it's something different and you have a different perspective. And we know you are building a business and being successful, not because you're a huge business with all of the resources in the world. So please don't not pitch yourself and not reach out because you're saying, oh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. People can't do business with you if they don't know about you. If you're ready for a new client, a book sale, another email on your list, like, then you're ready to be reaching out and getting coverage in other places.
I love that. You know what? I was so afraid to get on podcasts before because first, English is not my first language, Let's be honest, sometimes I have slips there, right, right there and there, but and also sometimes I feel like is what I'm giving something valuable to the audience or to the listeners, so I struggle with those two things. But then I started early this year, to just get on podcasts, and somebody asked me, so how were you able to overcome those things? I just get on podcasts.
You just do it. Exactly.
I just get on podcasts now. Like, I don't care really if I slip up. I'm a human being. If I have a wrong grammar in my sentence, I'm not from America. It's like
people from America slip up all the time. Like, English is my first and only language. First of all, just be like freaking proud that you know multiple languages.
Yeah.
But like, I slip up and make up words and speak incorrectly all the time.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We're human and we make mistakes. And so I just feel like, to those people who are listening to this right now, if you lack self-confidence because you doubt yourself or whatever, the solution is to just do it, really. Because you are going to overcome your fear when you start doing it, because you're going to see that you're going to see that it's a good experience, and you're just your own critic, so don't be that to yourself.
That's true.
Christina, this has been fun. Oh my gosh, I can talk to you for a week. I feel like. So where can people find you online?
We're gonna hang out for sure.
Yes, we will, for sure. So where can people find you online?
Oh, all kinds of places. So I have Become a Media Maven, my podcast, where you have been. So come follow me there. Listen to Kristy's interview with me.
Yes.
On social media, I'm at Christina all day. My website is mediamavenandmore.com. And if you want to get started now, which you should, there are 16 places you can pitch to be a contributor. They are accepting pitches now. So just go to 16places.com and you can get the PDF, and you have all the information there. So you can start contributing on a regular basis to popular websites to get in front of your ideal customer or client.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Kristy.